Hey guys, Button 25 here, watching launch of Es'hail-2 on a Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Just a bit over, actually stick around for payload deploy because it's not that late.
Ground gas closeout's complete.
Falcon 9's in startup.
Also, yeah, the Ariane 5 launch that was meant to be earlier today was delayed.
Stage 2
glad about that because I wouldn't have been able to see it. Right, okay, right, startup, right. Shows you, despite not really doing anything that would tire me out all day, I, for some reason,
go for
tired.
lunch.
Figure that one out. Alright, 30 seconds.
Stage 1 going up 2 startup pressures.
Oh, it's 15 seconds.
Falcon 9's configured for flight.
10, 9, 8,
8.
7, 6, 5.
Just look for the green flame
4,
as T-tab ignites.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
Okay, you didn't get to see it from this angle, but there you go. Also, this is a reflown first stage. I believe it's on one of the Telstar mission. Telstar? I think it's Telstar, but I'm not entirely sure. You can see the Falcon 9 climbing into the sky. It's going to be a barge landing. Well, they're attempting a barge landing. It's, in all likelihood, looking at the weather, it's going to succeed, but, you know, knock on wood. The fairings aren't going to be recovered. They're not attempting that because Mr. Stevens is on the other side of the continent. Is Mr. Stevens Panamax? Or, well, basically, can Mr. Stevens fit through?
We've had successful liftoff of the Falcon 9 vehicle as it carries Es'hail-2 communication satellite to geostationary transfer orbit. Now we've cleared the towers and we
Fit
are
through the
ascending.
Panama Canal.
The next major milestone as we come up is max Q, that maximum aerodynamic pressure that the vehicle will experience as it goes through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. As we get higher, the density of the atmosphere decreases and there's less and less load on the vehicle. You should hear the call out for that soon.
And my train of toss right derailed.
Pressure.
Oh yeah. Is Mr. Stevens capable of going through the Panama Canal? Because it's like, right, the hull. Yeah, pretty obvious it can.
And we've had max Q, so again, decreasing pressure on the vehicle as we continue to ascend through the thinner parts of the upper atmosphere.
Right.
Now we're coming up on a sequence here where a few events will happen in very short succession. Those events are MECO, stage separation, and then SES-1. Those stand for MECO, main engine cutoff, stage separation, and then SES, which is second engine start number 1, the first of the 2 planned burns today. And those are, MECO is when we shut off the 9 Merlin engines of the first stage, and then once we've shut those down, we separate the 2 stages, and then once the stages are separated, the second stage engine, the Merlin vacuum engine, is exposed to space and it will begin burning. That will happen over the span of about 10 seconds, starting about 20 seconds or so from now. Again, main engine cutoff, stage separation, second engine start.
Right, basically, can Mr. Stevens fit through the Panama Canal because of those sodding great things sticking out the side? This is a view in the interstage. We didn't get to see MECO yet. I think MECO's just occurred.
MECO, we have stage separation.
Yep, there's stage
separation confirmed.
And there's SES-1. The camera on the first stage. There we go.
And we have had second engine
there was some
start
problems
as the
there
orange
with the...
glow appears to brighten up the Merlin vacuum engine in the center of your screen. Again,
You can
transitioning the
just about make out the
responsibilities from
first stage
to
falling
the
away.
second stage. We'll follow both of those vehicles in parallel as we continue this webcast, but for now, the next major milestone is on the second stage, and that is when we deploy the fairings that encapsulate the payload.
Grid fins
so
are deploying.
Es'hail-2 is protected from the aerodynamics of ascent by that fairing. Once we're out in space, the air is not thick, we do not need it anymore, so we drop it to reduce our total mass. That fairing deployment will occur about 10 seconds from now.
Yeah, the stage 1's having some downlink issues, not entirely uncommon. There's the fairing set.
Separation confirmed.
And with the fairing deployment that you saw on your screen, we now have Es'hail-2 exposed to that beautiful vacuum of space. Now, second stage is going to go quiet here for a few minutes. Remember, you can see the orange on your screen. MVAC is still burning, and this is the first of the 2 planned burns for second stage.
The
This
Falcon
burn
9
will
is
be
basically
multi-minute,
almost
and we'll return
vertical
to it in a
above the
bit.
relative
We'll
to
shift
the
our
Earth.
focuses back to the left of your screen now, where the secondary mission, the landing of that first stage, is targeting the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, just like second stage, that first stage is going to conduct 2 burns in its lifetime, and those 2 burns, we've already seen the first one, or I'm sorry, we are about to see the first one in re-entry, and then we will see the landing burn. Now, that re-entry burn is self-described. It's right before we re-enter the atmosphere. We want to slow down our velocity as much as possible. We're traveling very, very quickly. You can see on your screen, we're going 2,300 meters per second. It's an extremely fast velocity. We want to reduce that before we actually re-enter the thickness of the atmosphere again. So that's what the re-entry burn is doing, and that will occur about a minute and a half or so from now.
Stage 2 is following a nominal trajectory.
If you're just tuning in, we've had successful ascents of the 2 stages. They have separated. Second stage is continuing on with Es'hail-2. First stage is coming back. We're about a minute away from that re-entry burn to slow us down. That re-entry burn itself will last for about 20 seconds, reducing our velocity before we get into the density of the upper atmosphere.
You can see the first stage basically pointing retrograde now.
Few seconds away now. It's interesting to note, as you can see on the left side, we are actually engines facing the incoming air. So we're going engine first, and that's why the burn does slow us down. As the vehicle burns its engines, that will push us back up. And because we're going engine first, that will slow us down and decelerate the vehicle. Those quick puffs you're seeing are cold gas thrusters that are there to make minor attitude or position corrections.
The entry
on the
burn's
vehicle.
about to start.
Entry startup.
Just as we lose downlink. There we go. Hello.
And that footage is being sent down from onboard cameras in space. So you can see through the choppiness there that the entry burn has started. Remember, 20-second burn in total for the re-entry.
There we go. Quite choppy. It's usually not this choppy. Maybe it's because of...
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Yeah. Maybe it's the actual burn kind of jittering the...
And the entry burn has concluded. So you can see the exhaust there on the left side. Now we're going to go into the second of the 2 planned burns, the landing burn soon. But it's worth noting that we'll have a very short sequence here as well. While the landing burn is occurring, second stage is going to conclude its first of 2 burns. So you'll see the landing burn start on the left side of your screen, and then you'll see the second stage stop firing on the right side of your screen. And then about 20 seconds after, you'll see the left stage hopefully come down with 0 velocity on the surface of the drone ship. Landing burn start, SECO number 1, landing burn conclusion. And we're about 30 seconds out again. Landing burn, SECO 1, and then landing conclusion. That feed is intermittent. If it does come back, it will show up and pip on screen.
That's always the case, to be fair, when it's a drone ship landing. For those of you unfamiliar with it, although if you're unfamiliar with it, I doubt you'll be seeing it on my channel, but in case you are, let me know in the comments. Haven't called out to the comments in a while. Might.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Landing burn startup.
Yeah, we don't have video. And SECO 1, there we go.
And there was SECO. You caught it at the very end there. Don't know exactly what's happening with the landing, but we'll report back for that as soon as we have information. But you saw that blip there at the end where SECO 1, second engine cutoff number 1, did occur.
I think I just heard the call for landing legs deploy.
We're going to check some data and tune in on first stage here in a second.
Nominal orbital insertion.
Alright, landing shut down.
So the stage should have landed, but there we go. The Falcon has landed.
Falcon on the drone ship.
And
And there it is. The first stage has landed
But
on
you
the
can
drone
see
ship.
that.
Of course, I Still Love You in the Atlantic Ocean for another recovery and a potential third refurbished flight of this same booster. So with good success of that secondary mission, we'll transition back to the primary mission here, which is the delivery of Es'hail-2 to geostationary transfer orbit. And what we're going to do here is what we call a coast phase. It's going to last for about 15 minutes. Second stage has burned its first of 2, and now it's going to coast for a bit before it's aligned properly to execute its second burn. We're going to coast for about 15 minutes now. We'll return to you with the deployment of the Es'hail-2 satellite when we return.
Transfer orbit. That's coming up in about 40 seconds. So let's watch for SES-2.
SES course second stage engine start. 2.
Second engine start.
And we've had second engine start number 2 as that Merlin
There we
vacuum
go.
engine relights, which is not an easy feat to do out in space, to relight a vacuum engine like
Because
that.
you
Now
need
this
to
burn
have
will
the-
last for a little bit under a minute in total. So we're going to burn through about T plus 27 minutes and a half or so, at which point we'll reach SECO-2, or second engine cutoff number 2.
Because you need to get, like, it's difficult to relight an engine in space because you need to get the fuel actually to the back to actually be able to be pumped into the engine. So you usually use something called ullage motors, which help settle the fuel.
And that cut off.
And second stage has concluded its second and final burn for that second stage as it delivers Es'hail-2 to geostationary transfer orbit. Now what's going to happen here is we're going to coast for another 4 or 5 minutes or so, just like we coasted between first and second. We're
But
going to coast
less.
between now and the actual deployment of the payload in its correct trajectory. So we're in a good orbit for now. Stage 2 and Es'hail-2 are still mated. We're going to coast for about 4 minutes here, and then we'll deploy the satellite.
Right, cue another pause.
Second stage, we just finished SES-2 and are
Okay, we're
moments away
approaching
from
payload
deploying
deploy.
the Es'hail-2 satellite into its geostationary transfer orbit.
And the deployment of this payload is really the culmination of today's entire primary mission. We have different payloads that Falcon 9 as a launch vehicle flies, and we have different ways to adapt those to the payload. For Es'hail-Sat, we need a mechanical connection to hold Es'hail-Sat before we push it away. Now that joint is held together with small springs that when we release them, just gently push that payload away into its final orbit.
Now, after the second stage deploys Es'hail-2 into its geostationary transfer orbit, that's it for the Falcon 9's mission. However, the satellite's on-propulsion system will slowly raise its orbit into its final circular geostation orbit.
So here we go at the very end, the payload deployment coming up about 20 seconds from now.
There we go, payload's up.
Spacecraft separation confirmed.
And there it is, a beautiful sight as Es'hail-2 floats away again to
That
provide
one frame?
communications from
Wait,
geostationary
it's totally frozen,
orbits.
hold on.
Thanks to our customer,
Yeah,
Es'hail-Sat,
slight
for trusting
rotation
us
there.
with today's mission. And surprisingly, SpaceX's first mission ever to be attempted in the entire month of November for the entire history of the company.
Really exciting.
So great day for us, great day for us.
Wait, is this the
We'd
first
also like to
SpaceX
extend our
launch in
thanks to
November
the
ever?
manufacturer of today's satellite, the Mitsubishi Electric
Or is it
Company,
just this
as well
November?
as the 45th Space Wing for their range safety, and as always,
Huh?
the FAA for their licensing of today's launch.
I'm
Now, we also
confused.
want to thank all of you, our viewers, for joining us. If you're excited by today's launch and want to join our mission to make life multiplanetary, please visit spacex.com/careers for a list of our current job postings. Please also follow us on our social media accounts for the latest on our upcoming missions and milestones. And with that, we're going to be signing off from Hawthorne and wish you all a wonderful rest of the day.
Acquisition of signal, Mauritius.
Right, yeah guys, that was launch of Es'hail-2 on a Falcon 9. I'm Biden25, goodbye.